Daniel sat alone in his small room, staring at the crack on the ceiling. He never imagined his life would turn out this way. His stepsister, Emma, had accused him of something terrible, and his entire world collapsed overnight. Emma was only 2 years older, but she always acted like she ruled the house. He remembered the day it all started. Emma came to their house, her eyes red with anger. "Your mother is so selfish," she shouted, throwing her bag on the floor. Daniel kept quiet, knowing Emma always had one complaint or another. She walked to the couch and sat heavily. "Are you just going to stand there and stare at me?" she asked sharply. Daniel sighed. "What happened this time?" he asked gently. "She doesn't want to pay for my postgraduate school. She thinks I should get a job," Emma said, tears filling her eyes. Daniel nodded slowly. "Maybe she is right. You've been in school for long. Maybe it's time to work and support yourself a bit." Emma turned and glared at him as if he had insulted her soul. "You think you're better than me, don't you, Daniel?" she spat. Daniel shook his head. "That's not what I meant. I'm just saying," but she stood up suddenly, her eyes full of hatred. "You're pathetic. One day, everyone will see it," she snapped before storming out. Daniel sighed and went to his room, thinking she would calm down soon. The next morning, Daniel woke up to his mother knocking hard on his door. "Get up now, Daniel," she ordered. He rubbed his eyes and asked, "What's wrong, Mum?" She didn't reply but walked away. Daniel put on his shirt and walked to the living room, confused. There, he saw Emma sitting on the couch with her face buried in her hands, sobbing loudly. Her mother sat beside her, patting her back. His father stood nearby, his face hard like stone. Daniel's mother pointed at him and said, "Sit down." Daniel sat, his heart beating fast. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice shaking. Emma looked up at him, her eyes swollen and red. "I can't believe what you did to me," she cried. Daniel frowned in confusion. "What did I do?" he asked softly. Emma's mother glared at him. "Don't you dare pretend. Emma told us everything." Daniel looked around, feeling dizzy. "What did she tell you?" he asked again, his voice rising slightly. Emma sobbed louder. He assaulted me," she said, choking on her tears. Daniel gasped loudly. "What? That's a lie. I didn't do anything like that," he shouted. But his father walked to him, grabbed his shoulders, and shook him hard. "Enough. Confess and apologize now before we report you to the police," his father growled. Daniel felt his world spinning. "Dad, I didn't do anything." "She is lying," he cried. His mother stood up and slapped him across the face. "How dare you lie again after what you did?" she shouted. Emma continued sobbing, shaking her head. "I trusted you, Daniel. I trusted you," she kept repeating. Daniel stood up, feeling his legs trembling. "Why are you all believing her? I didn't touch her. She is making this up because I told her the truth yesterday," he said desperately. But no one listened to him. Emma's mother stood up and shouted, "You are evil. You are a monster." Daniel felt anger rising in him. He picked up a vase from the table and smashed it against the wall. "Listen to me," he screamed. Everyone went silent, staring at him in shock. His father pushed him back hard. "Go to your room before I lose my mind completely," his father commanded. Daniel stumbled back and ran to his room, tears pouring down his face. He locked the door and sat on the floor, hugging his knees. "Why is this happening to me?" he whispered to himself, rocking back and forth, feeling completely alone in the world. That evening, his father came into his room and said coldly, "Pack your things." Daniel looked up with red eyes. "Where am I going?" he asked, his voice breaking. His father didn't answer but left the door open. Daniel packed his clothes slowly, feeling his chest tighten with pain. When he came downstairs with his bag, his mother and father were waiting. "You're going to your aunt's house in Milltown. You will stay there for as long as necessary," his father said without emotion. Daniel dropped his bag on the floor. "You're sending me away? Over a lie?" he asked, tears streaming down his face. His mother looked away, wiping her tears quickly. "Don't make this harder than it is," she whispered. "What about my college fund? What about my future?" he asked. His father looked at him coldly. Your college fund is now Emma's. She deserves it after what you did to her, he replied. Daniel fell to his knees, sobbing into his palms. His father turned away. Let's go, he said sharply. Daniel's father drove him in silence. The road stretched out like his thoughts, endless and painful. He looked out the window, tears sliding down his cheeks. Dad, do you really believe her? He asked softly, his voice breaking. His father tightened his grip on the steering wheel and said nothing. Daniel turned away and whispered, I didn't do it, Dad. I swear I didn't. But the car remained silent except for the hum of the engine. When they reached his aunt's house, his father parked without looking at him. Get your things, he ordered. Daniel stepped out, carrying his small bag. His aunt, a tall thin woman with sharp eyes, opened the door. Come in, she said without emotion. Daniel walked in slowly, feeling like a prisoner. His father didn't help him with his bags, or even hug him goodbye. We're doing this for your own good, his father said before walking back to the car and driving away. Daniel stood at the door, watching until the car disappeared down the dusty road, leaving him alone. His aunt, Margaret, led him to a small room with a narrow bed and an old wooden chair. This is your room. Keep it clean, she said sharply. Daniel nodded quietly. Thank you, Aunt Margaret, he whispered. She folded her arms. Don't thank me. I didn't ask for this. Your father said you needed a place to stay, so here you are. Don't cause trouble, she said before leaving him alone. Daniel sat on the bed, staring at his hands. They were shaking. He felt like his life had ended. He lay down and closed his eyes, but sleep didn't come. All he saw was Emma's face, her tears, and her lies. His chest ached with anger and sadness. He whispered into the darkness, Why did you do this to me, Emma? Why? The next morning, Margaret knocked on his door. Get up. Breakfast is ready, she said. Daniel sat up slowly and walked to the kitchen. She placed a plate of toast on the table. You'll need to find a job soon. I don't feed grown boys for free, she said, sipping her tea. Daniel nodded. Yes, Aunt Margaret, he replied quietly. After breakfast, he walked around the small town. It felt empty. The shops were few, and he didn't know anyone. He sat on a bench near the small bus station, staring at people as they came and went. He felt invisible. No one knew him, and no one cared. He pulled his knees up and rested his head on them. What do I do now? He whispered to himself. The world felt too big and too cruel. Days passed slowly. Daniel helped Margaret clean the house, sweep the compound, and fetch water. She never smiled at him. One evening she said, Here. She handed him a flyer. They need workers at the warehouse. Go there tomorrow and ask for a job. Daniel took it and nodded. Thank you, he said softly. The next day, he wore his cleanest shirt and walked to the warehouse. The manager, a stout man with a thick beard, looked him up and down. You strong? He asked. Yes, sir, Daniel replied quickly. Good. Start tomorrow. 5 in the morning. Don't be late, the man said before walking away. Daniel bowed slightly. Thank you, sir, he whispered. As he walked home, he felt a small flicker of relief. At least he would have something to do, somewhere to go, even if it wasn't the life he wanted. His first day at work was hard. He lifted heavy boxes, sorted deliveries, and cleaned shelves. By noon, his arms ached and his back felt like it would break. During lunch, he sat alone on an old bench, eating bread and water. 2 boys around his age sat nearby. One of them, a tall boy with curly hair, called out, Hey, new guy, what's your name? Daniel swallowed quickly. Daniel, he replied. I'm Chris, and this is Mark, the boy said, pointing to his friend. Mark, a chubby boy with kind eyes, smiled. First day is always tough. You'll get used to it, he said. Daniel nodded. Thanks, he whispered. For the first time in weeks, he felt a tiny warmth in his chest. Maybe he wouldn't be completely alone here. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel worked hard every day. Chris and Mark became his friends. They joked with him during breaks and helped him learn faster. One evening, as they walked home together, Chris asked, So, what brings you here? You're not from this town. Daniel looked at the dusty road under his feet. Family issues, he said quietly. Chris nodded. We all have those, he replied softly. Mark patted Daniel's shoulder. At least you have us now, he said with a smile. Daniel smiled faintly. Yeah. Thank you, he whispered. That night, lying on his small bed, Daniel whispered into the darkness. God, please help me. Don't let me lose myself completely. One morning, after a long shift, Daniel returned home to find Margaret standing in the kitchen, arms folded. Your father called, she said sharply. Daniel's heart jumped. What did he say? He asked quickly. Nothing important, she replied, turning away. Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. He missed his family, even though they had thrown him away. He walked to his room and sat on the bed, staring at the wall. Memories of home filled his mind. His mother's gentle singing, his father teaching him how to fix things, and even Emma laughing before everything went dark. His chest tightened with pain. Will they ever believe me? He whispered to himself, feeling tears run down his cheeks. Weeks passed, and Daniel saved every little money he earned. Chris and Mark noticed his seriousness. What are you saving for? Mark asked one evening as they sat under a mango tree after work. Daniel smiled faintly. My freedom, he replied softly. Chris nodded. That's a good thing to save for. Daniel looked at his friends and felt a tiny hope in his chest. He was broken, but he was still breathing. Maybe, just maybe, he could build something out of the pieces left. One Friday evening, as they walked home, Chris said, There's a small community college here. You can try to register. The fees aren't much. Daniel's eyes widened. Really? He asked softly. Mark nodded. Yeah. You're smart. Don't waste it, he said. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He thought about school, about having a chance to start again. He closed his eyes and whispered, God, if this is your way of giving me hope, please help me. The next week, after work, Daniel walked to the college. The building was small, with peeling paint, but it felt like hope. He asked about admission, and the woman at the desk smiled. You'll need to pay a registration fee and bring your documents, she said kindly. Daniel nodded, his heart racing. Thank you, Ma, he said softly. As he walked out, he saw his reflection in the glass door. He looked thin and tired, but there was a tiny spark in his eyes. He touched the glass and whispered, Don't give up. Daniel told Chris and Mark about his visit. That's amazing. Mark said, smiling wide. Chris nodded. We'll help you. Whatever you need, just tell us, he said. Daniel felt tears in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered, his voice shaking. That evening, he worked extra hours at the warehouse, lifting boxes with new strength. Every sweat drop felt like a step closer to his dream. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to fight for it. One night, as he lay on his bed, Daniel thought about Emma. Her lies still haunted him. He clenched his fist and whispered, I will not let you destroy me forever. The pain was deep, but he felt a small strength rising inside him. I will survive this, he said softly into the dark room. Outside, the wind blew gently against the window. It sounded like a quiet promise, reminding him that dawn always comes after the longest night. The next morning, Margaret called him to the kitchen. You've been working hard, she said in a cold voice. Daniel nodded, not sure what to say. She placed a plate of yam and egg in front of him. Eat well today. You look thin, she said before walking away. Daniel stared at the food, surprised. For the first time, he saw a tiny crack in her hard shell. He smiled faintly and whispered, Thank you, Aunt Margaret. At work, Daniel told Chris and Mark about what his aunt did. She's starting to soften up, Chris said with a grin. Mark nodded. Just keep being good. She'll come around, he said. Daniel smiled and felt warmth in his chest. Maybe family wasn't only about blood. Maybe it was about people who saw your pain and still stood by you. Weeks passed, and Daniel finally saved enough for the college registration. He went with Mark to pay the fee. As he held the receipt, he felt tears fill his eyes. I did it, he whispered. Mark patted his back. You're going far, Daniel. Don't ever doubt it, he said. That evening, Daniel sat on his small bed, holding the receipt against his chest. He closed his eyes and whispered, "God, thank you. I will not waste this chance." At work the next day, Chris said, "We should celebrate your admission. Pizza tonight at my place." Daniel laughed softly. "I can't say no to that," he said. That evening, the three friends sat on the floor of Chris's small room, eating cheap pizza and laughing about work stories. For the first time in many months, Daniel felt happy. As he walked home under the starry sky, he looked up and whispered, "I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I am ready to live again." Days passed, and Daniel started his classes at the community college while still working at the warehouse. His days were long and tiring, but he felt alive. One afternoon after class, he sat under a tree reading when his phone buzzed with an email notification. He almost ignored it, thinking it was from the college, but something made him open it. It was from his father. Daniel's hands shook as he read the first line. "Emma has finally confessed." His heart pounded so loudly he could barely read the rest. Emma had told the truth. She admitted she made up the accusation because she was angry that Daniel didn't support her that day. She wanted to teach him a lesson and never thought it would go so far. Daniel sat under the tree, staring at his phone with tears rolling down his cheeks. His father wrote, "We are sorry. Please come home. Let's talk and move forward." Daniel wiped his tears with the back of his hand. Anger, pain, relief, and sadness mixed in his chest. He remembered how they threw him away without a second thought. He remembered the cold nights, the hunger, and the loneliness. He whispered, "Move forward?" Just like that. He sat there for a long time, feeling the breeze brush his face gently as the sun set behind the small college building. That evening, he told Chris and Mark about the email. They listened silently. Mark shook his head and said, "They don't deserve you, Daniel." Chris nodded. "They ruined your life and now want you back like nothing happened." Daniel sighed deeply. "I don't know what to do. They are my family." Mark placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Family is not only blood. We're your family too. Don't let them control your peace again," he said softly. Daniel felt tears fill his eyes as he nodded slowly. "Thank you," he whispered. For days, Daniel didn't reply to his father's email. He focused on his studies and work. Every morning, he looked in the mirror and told himself, "You're strong. You're not what they called you." One Friday night, after work, he sat on his bed and drafted a reply. He wrote, "I'm glad you know the truth now. But I'm not ready to come back. I have built a life here. I forgive you, but I need to heal." He read it many times before pressing send. When he did, he felt a heavy weight lift from his chest. The next day, his mother called through his aunt's phone. "Daniel, please come home," she cried. Her voice trembled with pain. Daniel closed his eyes, tears falling silently. "Mom, I forgive you. But I need time." "I can't come now," he replied softly. She sobbed on the phone. "I understand," she whispered before hanging up. Daniel sat quietly in his small room, staring at the ceiling, feeling both sadness and freedom. Emma also sent him a message. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I ruined everything. Please forgive me." Daniel read it over and over. He felt anger rise in him, but he took a deep breath and replied, "I forgive you. I hope you find peace within yourself." He pressed send and felt his heart calm. He knew forgiveness wasn't for her, it was for his own peace. Weeks passed, and Daniel continued studying hard. One day after class, his lecturer called him aside. "You're brilliant, Daniel. You should apply for a scholarship to study further," she said with a smile. Daniel's eyes widened. "Do you think I can?" he asked softly. She nodded firmly. "I know you can. Believe in yourself." That evening, he sat with Chris and Mark and told them about it. They both cheered him on, promising to help with his application essays. Months later, Daniel received an email with the scholarship results. His hands shook as he opened it. "Congratulations, Daniel. You have been awarded a full scholarship to study business management at the City University." Tears poured down his face as he laughed and cried at the same time. Chris hugged him tightly while Mark patted his back. "We told you, Daniel. You're going places," Mark said, smiling with pride. The day he left for the City University, Aunt Margaret stood at the door watching him with her usual stern face. But as he lifted his bag to leave, she touched his arm gently. "You've done well, Daniel. Make me proud," she said softly. Daniel smiled, tears filling his eyes. "Thank you for taking me in when no one else did," he whispered. She nodded and turned away quickly, hiding her tears. As he walked to the bus station, he looked back at the small house one last time and whispered, "Thank you, God, for this journey." At the city university, Daniel started a new life. He studied hard, made new friends, and grew into a confident young man. Sometimes at night, he would think about Emma, his parents, and all the pain he went through. But he no longer felt anger. He only felt gratitude that he survived it. One evening, he stood by his window, looking at the city lights and whispered, "They tried to break me, but I grew stronger. They threw me away, but God picked me up." He smiled softly, feeling the breeze on his face, and said, "This is only the beginning of my story." Please, subscribe to African Tales by Helen Gold for more African stories. Comment, like, share, and turn on your notification bell.